It was an explosive day in a Georgia courtroom during the disqualification hearing to remove the Fulton County District Attorney from the election interference case. Fani Willis took the stand for a face-off with the attorneys of Donald Trump's co-defendants indicted on charges of trying to subvert Georgia's 2020 presidential election. Willis was on the stand for hours, answering questions about her relationship with attorney Nathan Wade. Here's some of her testimony.
You've ever given him outside of a contract is cash.
I didn't give him money in a contract, so that was cute, but I didn't give him money outside in a contract. What happened is, no, we're going to answer it since you said it. He worked more hours than he was paid, and the county paid him for the work that he did. So don't be cute with me and then think that you're not going to get an answer. But I always have cash at the house. That has been, I don't know, all my life. If you're a woman and you go on a date with a man, you better have $200 in your pocket. So if that man acts up, you can go where you want to go. So I keep cash in my house, and I don't keep cash as good in my purse like I used to. I don't go on many dates, but when you go on a date, you should have cash in your pocket.
So my question was, where did that cash originally come from, if it didn't come out of the bank?
Cash is fungible. We've had cash for years in my house. So for me to tell you the source of when it comes from, when you go to Publix and you buy something, you get $50, you throw it in there. It's been my whole life. When I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign, I kept some of the cash of that. Like, to tell you I just have cash in my house, I don't have as much today as I would normally have, but I'm building back up now. So you just put money in. It's a very good practice. I would advise it to all women.
So you can't identify when you came into this cash or where the cash came from?
I didn't say I couldn't identify it. No, nobody gives me anything. I am sure that the source of the money is always the work, sweat, and tears of me. What you asked me for is, when did the money go in there? What I am trying to tell you is, so I got divorced in 2005 from my husband. No, it's important. You said, where did the money come from? And I need to tell you where the money came from. And so for many years, I have kept money in my house. That money in my worst days has probably only been $500 or $1,000. At my best days, I probably had $15,000 in my house at cash. At all times, there's going to be cash in my house or wherever I'm laying my head.
The money that you paid Mr. Wade, the cash, in October of 2022, you do not know where that money came from?
I do know where it came from. It came from my sweat and tears.
You know which job it came from. Did it come from Fulton County or did it come from a private job?
It came from, what are you talking about? So it could have come from a private job, because before I was DA, I was in private practice. So I earned money during that time period that's probably in there.
You don't know
let's go on and have the conversation.
I've just asked you whether or not it was a coincidence.
Had absolutely nothing to do with this. It's interesting that we're here about this money. Mr. Wade is used to women that, as he told me one time, the only thing a woman can do for him is make him a sandwich. We would have brutal arguments about the fact that I am your equal. I don't need anything from a man. A man is not a plan. A man is a companion. And so there was tension always in our relationship, which is why I would give him his money back. I don't need anybody to foot my bills. The only man who's ever foot my bills completely is my daddy.
So your office objected to us getting Delta records for flights that you may have taken with Mr. Wade.
Look, I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives. You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial.
So my question was, do you have any problem?
I object to getting any personal records of mine.
We're not dealing with privilege through a witness.
And where, when did he come to, I guess, the condo? I'm not sure what you called it, condo apartment. Would he come and stay at that condo or visit you there? I'm sorry, visit you there.
What condo, what apartment? I want to be clear.
So not your house. I know you classified one as house and one as condo, so I'm trying to use those terms.
So there's been more see, what you don't understand is because of this case, I got to move. And so I
need to... If you could ask a more precise question.
Yes, please, give me the time period.
Mr. Wade visited you at the place you laid your head.
When?
Has he ever visited you at the place you laid your head?
So let's be clear, because you lied in this. Let me tell you which one you lied in. Right here. I think you lied right here. No. This is the truth,
Judge.
And it is a lie. It is a lie.
Ms. Willis?
The hearing will continue at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Friday. We've assembled a legal panel here today to discuss today's proceedings. Joining us here in the studio is Pamela Keith, the CEO at the Center for Employment Justice Law firm, and Monique Presley, legal analyst and host of Make It Make Sense with Monique Presley. They join us from Washington, D.C., regulars here at the Roland Martin Unfiltered broadcast. And we're also joined by criminal justice journalist Josie Duffy Rice. She's out of Atlanta. Thanks for being here, sisters. Well, where do we start? Perhaps Attorney Keith, who is over here in D.C. Let's talk. Walk us through what we saw.
I think the first thing we need to talk about is what were they getting at? What are they trying to establish with this line of questioning? And what they were trying to establish is that there was a romantic relationship between Fani and Nathan Wade before he got the contract to be the prosecutor in this case, which would suggest that she gave the job to him because of that interpersonal relationship. I think they tried hard to get there, but all they got was friendly, knew each other, mentor, we were friendly, not a physical relationship. Her testimony, I think, clearly establishes that their physical relationship didn't really take off until they were working together in close proximity. The contract had already been offered, he was doing the job, and that friendship morphed into something more, and at which point they had a physical relationship. She admitted that they did, and I think that there's some people whose eyes kind of popped open at that.
Really?
Yeah, because it's...
I mean, they were going to find that out anyway, and Wade himself said it wasn't nothing about it. He and his wife, it was irreconcilable. What do you say, marriage was broken as of what, 2016?
I don't think the state of his marriage is relevant.
Interesting, okay.
It's not relevant to the question. Right, it may make him look a little shady to people, having an extramarital affair, but his testimony was that the marriage was for convenience at that stage for the benefit of their children, and that they were really living separate lives in a single home, and that, they had been emotionally divorced, if not on paper, for many, many years. And again, that's one of those things that may look bad to the Christian viewer, but is not relevant in the law. Especially
the Christian hypocrite crew. I mean, who cares what Donald Trump says on Truth Social? So just one thing. So the thing they were after, they weren't able to prove today. Not in the testimony that I heard. There was no evidence that they were in a sexual relationship or they were sleeping together at the time that Fani offered him the contract to be the prosecutor on this case, right? He was somebody she knew who had been a speaker at a conference that she attended. She was impressed with his background and his experience. And when it came to picking somebody to prosecute this, she probably decided she wanted somebody she trusted, somebody she thought had the chops, had the experience, and this guy was close enough to her for her to have observed enough about him to decide, yeah, I think this guy's a good guy to be the prosecutor on this. Their intimate relationship did not begin until after that contract was given. Okay. So I think that's what they were going for. They were also kind of looking for instances where she financially benefited from him being the prosecutor. Right. So they kept digging into, well, did you give him money? Did he give you money? Right. How much money did you give him? When you traveled together, did you pay? Did he pay? And what she established through her testimony, as far as I could tell, was that every time they traveled, she paid her portion, he paid his portion, and it could have been that he bought it initially, she paid him back, or she bought it initially, and she paid him back. The only exception to that was the trip to Belize, where she paid for everything as a gift to him from her own money. Yeah. And again, that was the birthday trip. That was the birthday trip. That doesn't, at least in my mind, create a conflict of interest. Okay. Because a conflict of interest is when the work of the people is interfered with by the relationship, and I don't think they got there. However, that's not to say that the optics are less than fabulous, and the politics of it are very less than fabulous, because what it takes to create a conflict in a court of law is maybe different than what the Georgia legislature is looking for in terms of impropriety and use of the office. I don't think they got enough. What I saw didn't establish abuse of the office. It didn't establish wasteful contracts or something that you would be
And I feel like I have to say, the people that are bringing this are the very same people who think that Clarence Thomas taken all kinds of benefits from people who have cases before him were perfectly okay, and same with Alito, thought that's perfectly okay, and they're Supreme Court justices. So we gotta just own the fact that the hypocrisy here is pretty blatant.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hypocrisy is their brand at this point. I mean, let's bring in Monique. Monique, you're looking at this. You watched this, and we've seen Fani Willis all along. What are your initial thoughts on what happened in that courtroom today? Any thoughts in particular on how Fani Willis handled herself on the stand?
Well, first of all, hey, Bison, hey.
Yes, indeed. HU, That's right. We got to back up Fani on that as well. No question. Hustle, no question. Every day I'm hustling. If you know what we talking about right now.
Hey, Bison.
No question.
She had me already, but when she said her former friend Robin did not go to Howard, I was done. That said everything I needed. Listen, Dr. Greg.
Yes, ma'am.
I can't say this isn't personally triggering for me. As a woman, as a black woman, as a black woman lawyer, as a black woman lawyer who has been in high-profile cases, as a black woman lawyer who's been in high-profile cases and been attacked by the opposing side based on issues that had nothing to do with the facts of the case, with nothing to do with the evidence, nothing to do with me doing my job, but my past, my man, my whatever.
Right.
This is the playbook, right? And so on the one hand, I was incensed. I was enraged, but on the other hand, I was very thankful and very proud. I believe that Special Prosecutor Wade was a quintessential perfect witness. I couldn't have coached, trained, prepared a cooler witness under hotter fire. Here is a man who self-professes and who all the investigators who have been trying to find dirt on him profess is a very private person. For years and years and years and years, such that we heard things from the witness stand we've never heard before because the investigators couldn't find it, right? But here's a black man under attack.
Yes.
Who has to talk about his career and being targeted there, has to talk about his money, how much he made, how much he didn't make, has to talk about his ex-wife, has to talk about his kids, has to talk about his cancer diagnosis, has to talk about the new woman in his life who's now the other former woman in his life. All these things, black men don't like none of that.
No question.
He does grace. He does it smiling sometimes. I was talking back and forth with other lawyers who were like, we could have done without that smile. I'm like, listen, he's doing the best he can. And he kept calm, cool as a cucumber, deliberate, answered every question. I thought he came out smashingly, so much so that before he got on the stand, the motion should have been granted for him to not get on the stand. After he left the stand, the state's motion should have been granted for DA Fani Willis to not come on the stand, but she interrupted her side winning in order to testify. And I was going back and forth with my law school coach and mentor, Dr. Sharon Anderson. I was going back and forth with Charles Coleman. I was going back and forth with all these people, and I could have just fell out and died. She's the worst client ever, right? Because you're winning.
Counselor, please walk us through that if you don't mind, Monique. What was the strategy? Why did she do that?
Listen, and it's all the reasons I just said, right? Because even though she, I believe, would have won that argument and the judge was on her side, she knew, like I know, like all these other women who were on this panel, love y'all sisters, hello sisters, like we all know, it's not finished. It would never be finished without her testifying. It would never be settled. It would be that she won on a technicality. It would be that there wasn't enough evidence. It would be that she hid behind her lawyers. It would be all the crap that we go through even when we're right. And so she came in and she said, I'm your Huckleberry. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm laid. My edge is laid. For everybody talking about how she looked. Yep, she was real cute, but Trump's lawyer was not cute, as she pointed out. And she said, let's do this. And when she went on the stand, we were worried because she came in hot. She was obviously upset. But see, Dr. Greg, we don't give people other than white men the permission to be upset in business. The permission when they're called liars, when they're called whores, when they're accused of, as she was in this particular hearing, giving a man a re-up on a contract because he took her on a cruise and a trip to Aruba.
Lord have mercy.
That's what we do. We put our entire careers on the line.
Absolutely.
To give a man another chance when his name isn't even husband because he took us on a cruise with his mama? No, I don't think so. Let me help everybody who doesn't understand how hard it is for a black woman to get in that job or any job of high acclaim. We know what it took for us to get there. We don't risk that for mom and them, daddy and them, brother and them, bae and them, not even husband and them. That man was given that job. He was selected by her because he was qualified. He was selected because she could trust him. He was selected because he could do the job. And he proved on the stand that he could do the job. I would hire him. And I don't say that about, let me tell you, I don't say that about hardly nobody. In this legal profession, he could be my lawyer. But I say all that to say, even though it was my worst nightmare, her being on the stand, thinking about it as a lawyer who would put a client on the stand, she did for herself what nobody could do for her. She didn't have to look at notes. She wasn't looking up in the corner. She wasn't saying, I don't recall.
No.
She wasn't saying, I need to pause and think about it. The only breaks that were asked for were by the judge, by the other lawyers. They were objecting, the opposing side, to the testimony that they begged for her to give.
How about
she
that?
came ready and she proved her case. And I think she did a service to her profession, to womanhood, and to democracy. Because, by the way, she's in this position because she's trying to put a criminal in prison and his cohorts for committing crimes against democracy and trying to steal an election.
Absolutely.
And I'm sorry if I ran long, but
no, that's actually a perfect framing, and that's exactly right. We got to keep our eye on the ball here as to what's really at stake. And thank you, Monique, for doing that, because that allows us to ask Josie a few questions. Josie Duffy Rice, I remember landing in Atlanta the day this story broke on the front page of Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and in the weeks since, it's only gotten hotter and hotter. And to kind of follow along what Monique has laid out for us here, you know, what is the climate in Georgia, particularly when we're talking about the larger politics of this, which is, of course, you have this sister, you have her office attempting to track down and convict a criminal for trying to steal an election. I mean, but what's your sense there on the ground in Georgia as to how today played out, and put it in the larger context of what's going on around this case?
Can you guys hear me?
Now we can.
Yes. So I think in Georgia, like many people across the country, especially here in Atlanta, there has been a lot of reliance on DA Willis to kind of pull through on this case. There's a lot of frustration and disappointment, I think, that this has become sort of the center of the story. And I think a lot of confusion, to be honest, about what would drive her to make some of the decisions she's made. I think, you know, for me, I would have to disagree. I don't think that they are in the right here. They may technically be in the right, but this is a massive mistake on both of their parts. I think it was unprofessional. I think it was, I think it put this case at risk and every case that she has at risk in some ways, because, you know, DAs operate through legitimacy, and this really has taken away some of her legitimacy. I think it's also worth noting, you know, Fani Willis has become a national figure because of this Donald Trump case, but she's also prosecuted some other big cases. She's prosecuting the YSL case right now here in Atlanta. She's in the past prosecuted the Atlanta teachers in the Atlanta cheating scandal, Atlanta public school cheating scandal. And she has made what I think are some harmful choices in her prosecutions. I'm glad she's prosecuting Trump. I think many of the other cases, you know, many of the other hundreds of thousands of cases her office prosecutes have been mistakes, harmful especially to Black communities. And I found it quite frustrating today to watch her talk about this, because I think it's very possible that they are technically right, that they technically didn't do anything wrong. I don't know the ins and outs of the ethics guidelines here to conclude that conclusively, but I think it's totally right. She didn't have to look at notes. She knew what she was doing. And it seemed like she was making decisions intentionally throughout their relationship, knowing that if this was public, it would look bad, right? She was trying to be thoughtful in that way. But the fact that this is an issue for someone whose entire job is accountability is, I think, a travesty. I think it's a massive, massive failure on her part. I think it is a massive mistake of her and Nathan Wade. And I feel frustrated with the general, defiance of that she took in the hearing. I understand that defiance. I thought she came off actually much better than she ended much better than she started. But I also, when you spend a lot of your time tracking down big wads of cash that you find at people's houses and asking them where it came from, or drawing connections.
I shouldn't laugh. Yeah, absolutely.
Drawing connections between, drawing inferences from people's relationships, which is largely what RICO cases are. It feels a little hypocritical for you to sit there and say that this is untouchable. You have a case of the biggest election case in this country. The one that had the most chance of succeeding was this case. And she put it at risk. And I think that's inexcusable.
Josie, you put something, a larger universe in play here. I had momentarily forgot.
Greg, can I ask a question?
Oh, please, go ahead, Monique, please.
Sure. I'm just wondering what law she broke or what ethics
I don't
code
think she broke the law.
Or what? No. I'm asking, and you can answer in any way, because you said you feel like it's a certain way and that you are disgusted by it. And I understand that people don't like RICO prosecutions. I'm one of those people, but I am thankful that it was used in this instance. And I think that that's the here and there of the law. But the reason why I am saying that she is standing in the place of right is because all we have is a book of laws that define the way people are supposed to be treated, and she utilizes them in her job. And they also define what can and cannot be done. And I believe in Georgia, especially, she couldn't have just hired, if she wanted to, her lover. She could have hired her husband. So I'm saying, if she picked the best person for the job, where was her lack of judgment? Where was her miscalculation? And how did it put the case at risk? Because let's face it, even if both of them are disqualified, this case is still going forward with 40 other people who were in the office.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good question of whether this case goes forward. I think it depends on how.
I don't know that that's true.
You don't think?
Yeah,
Pam, you might think.
No, if she's disqualified, her office is disqualified.
Office is disqualified. The question is, will someone else take the case? And the answer is maybe.
If she's disqualified, she will be replaced, and they already have provisions in place for her replacement, and it does not end his indictment nor his co-defendants.
No,
indictment.
agreed.
So what I'm asking, and I'm back to my original question: what moral code?
Oh, those two different things, right?
Those are two different things.
I'm asking,
moral code or law.
Just name one, other than she should have known better because she's a black woman and she can't get away with falling in love with and dating.
I don't know.
A man who she hires.
We don't want to mix.
I want to know if they were going to find that she did something wrong. What is the thing that she did wrong? Just I'm open. Tell me.
I think that if you hire the best person for the job, you don't sleep with the best person for the job on the job. I think that's a mistake.
So
I think that is an optical mistake. I think it's an ethical mistake. It might not be a legal mistake. You might be right about that.
Well, I mean,
let's hold on. 1 second.
We're gonna take a break.
That you don't sleep with the people who work for you is a general ethical rule.
If you would just name one, I would agree with you.
I just did. I named three.
Like I say, it's two separate things. Actually, it may be three separate things here as well.